time to get the committee's view. Man, I don't need no committee's view. We got this. Stupid committee. Oh, I just saved by accident. That's okay. Miss Bound, are you feeling a little calmer now? Yes. Good, then allow me to get to the point. Regardless of your intentions, you broke the law. Yes, I understand. Nevertheless, I understand that you did what you did in order to prove Mr. Tangaroa's innocence. Therefore, if the real culprit really is someone else, then we have a duty to reinvestigate the case.
Overruled.
There is nothing to suggest that anything nefarious took place in the official IS-7 incident records. Oh dear. Let me double check and make sure. Looks like we are streaming. Yeah, it looks like we're... Yep, there we go. Okay. And right now, there is nothing to suggest that we should take Miss Bound afterward either. So our first order of business should be to arrest the culprit of the case before us, Miss Bound herself. I love how she's all in her defense when we're trying to get to the truth, and now we're trying to still get to the truth, and now she's not defending Bound. I guess this was bound to happen. Official records cannot always be trusted, Judge Gavelle. Especially since there are those prosecutors who would think nothing of twisting the facts. Are you suggesting that the committee at the time overlooked just such a prosecutor? That's for you and your people to figure out. However, it is a fact that the autopsy report was faked, seeing as Mr. Frost's body was only found just now. There really is something of Mr. Von Karma in you, Mr. Edgeworth. How so, exactly? By continually defying the will of the committee and bending the truth to fit your needs, that's how.
Bending it. It's Von Karma's fault that we probably ended up like this because he hid the body.
I know. Like, if she doesn't want to reinvestigate it,
There's
she...
a little bit of Mr. Von Karma in her.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, jeez. Now we gotta talk to her first. The committee is willing to accept that Mr. Von Karma falsified Mr. Frost's autopsy report. Even still, Mr. Von Karma only managed to have Mr. Tangaroa convicted as an accomplice. I personally have come to believe that the real culprit behind the IS-7 incident is Miss Bound. Her plan to poison and kill Mr. Gusto today was her attempt to frame him for Mr. Frost's murder.
There was no need for Mr. Gusto to go in there unless he thought there was something there.
And there's no need to frame him for the murder, concerning the statute of limitations and all that.
Right.
She could just hid the body for longer. It is, as always, I act solely in service of law and order. Sounds to me like all she's doing is acting in service of the committee and covering up the truth. If I can't change her mind, there will be no saving Mr. Tangaroa or Miss Bound.
Hold it!
And the accomplice thing was changed, wasn't it? We found out yesterday. Yeah, like, it's an accomplice, but remember Fender said it wasn't really an accomplice, like, something changed? Confession secured by Mr. Von Karma, which should surely cast doubt on the final verdict itself. Samson Tangaroa confessed to the initial investigating officer when Detective Ian Seidman. The official records state that it was his interrogations that led to the conviction. Therefore, all I can say to you is the goddess of justice has already spoken. Unbelievable. She just won't budge at all. Are these committee guys really that big of a deal? In many ways, they are a prosecutor's worst nightmare. It's kind of like how the police are to a great thief, huh? Funny how you don't seem to have a problem working with the police when it suits you, though. She doesn't need to, though, and I wonder if that's the evidence to... Why would Miss Bound have chosen to frame Mr. Gusto for the murder? No doubt because he suspected her of being the real culprit. He may have entered what he thought was the Winter Wing simply to see if the Gemini statue was genuine again. Little did he know that he would be greeted by a trap designed to silence him. A trap that worked. You have any evidence to support the line of reasoning? Unfortunately, Mr. Gusto remains in critical condition. It would be difficult to prove anything until he regains consciousness. In other words, there's little we can do for now. On the contrary, there's plenty we can do. You still have not grasped the situation, have you? And allow me to spell it out for you.
Hold
it! All the evidence you need. In the matter of the IS-7 incident, we have a body, a murder weapon, and 2 suspects. As for the poison gas attack, we have the sources of the 2 chemicals and Miss Bound's confession. And as for you, Mr. Edgeworth, we also have enough evidence. See that you yourself will have to answer to the committee in a formal hearing. What? Whoa, that doesn't sound good. Don't worry, Miles Sereno. If nothing else, you're always more than welcome at Edgeworth & Co. Your Honor, I'd greatly appreciate it if we could stay focused on the matter at hand. Ha ha! Of course. Now, where was I?
Hold it!
You really mean to assert that there are no loose ends left to investigate? None at all. All of the evidence has been examined at length, and there's nothing more to be learned from them. Therefore, I see no need to further prolong this trial. This court finds... Your Honor, I'm certain there's something that still needs to be examined. The hammer is about to fall, Mr. Edgeworth. Only hard evidence can stop it now. Present what you think requires further deliberation now. Assuming there really is anything left, that is. This isn't over yet, not by a long shot. There's still one thing we don't have an answer to. It's up to me to point it out to Judge Gabel.
That is preposterous because...
Should we do it for this one? She has all the evidence she needs. So what evidence do we need an explanation for? This we have an answer to. Melted chocolate we do. The sketches we do. Do we need more information on the relationship of the two? That could be one. The salt layout. I mean, we haven't really gotten too much into this besides... No. Maybe it is this. Ooh. Maybe it is this one. Hold on, let me try it.
Hold it! Objection! Hold it!
Well, we still don't really have a detailed autopsy report.
Objection!
Right. And I don't know which one, if it's this one or if it's the last one.
I think it's we have all the evidence that we need, and we don't because we don't have the autopsy report.
Word.
Did you look on this one?
Oh, I don't know why they're crying.
Objection!
Wait, why was there that chemical in the teapot? They all drank it.
Hey, I don't think we know that yet.
Objection!
And I don't know if it's as simple as we're not contradicting the right thing. Because this is where she was giving us stuff.
Objection! Objection!
Just doing the other ones we presented for the other statements. Okay, let me press run this again.
Hold it!
Nothing more to do.
Objection! Objection!
Whoops.
Objection!
Oh dear. Are we gonna see one of the bad endings? No, it can't end like this, and yet there's nothing more I can do. We try.
Hold it!
wonder if it's that little of sleep.
I wonder.
Objection!
Have you tried anything?
I don't know, I'm losing track of which one we tried it from.
Objection!
Like, which statement we tried it from. I was probably very upset with the amount of contradictions. I might just go one by one, and I feel stupid for doing that.
Objection!
I don't know how dumb we're gonna feel from this. Wait. Gosh, hold on, I'm just rubbing an itch. There we go.
Objection!
Which one did you get it on?
Gemini. I'm afraid there is still one question concerning the IS-7 incident that remains unanswered, Your Honor. Would you mind taking a look at this? What is it? Their test results carried on the liquid at the bottom of the Gemini case in the Winter Wing. As you can see, traces of blood were detected. The question is whose? Until that question is answered, I hardly think you can claim out all the evidence. There was blood in the Gemini case. Why did I not hear about this from Eustace? Because Detective Gumshoe informed me of the result directly. I was planning to tell Mr. Lunar about it myself, of course. You kept this to yourself until now, despite having no jurisdiction here whatsoever. Mark my words, the committee will hear all about what you have done here today. As ever, my interest is in the truth, and if mistakes were made in the past, they must be rectified. If you must report me to the committee, then so be it. In return, we must be allowed to investigate this case to the very end. That is not my decision to make. You will need to discuss it with Eustace. Well, guess who's back, losers? And with good news, too.
Mr. Gusto's okay.
It was a close call for a minute there, but Carmelo Gusto is alive. Gusto. He made it. You're the ones who found me. Yep, long time no see, Gusto. You're the attorney's assistant. You've grown, and you have an assistant of your own. Assistant? No, I'm... He hasn't gotten the gig yet. This is Gregory Edwards' son. Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth at your service. Fake moves in mysterious ways. I'm in your debt. If you hadn't found me in time, I wouldn't be here to thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. After all, if you hadn't lived, we wouldn't be able to ask you what really happened 18 years ago. Huh? What are you talking about? We figured out quite a bit while you were out cold, including the fact that you're probably the guy who offed poor Artie Frost. What? Is this true? Miss Bounds set up a very elaborate trap to catch Mr. Frost's murderer. A trap that involved rigging the Pisces case with poison gas. Perhaps in light of that fact, you could tell us in your own words what happened back then? Perhaps you'd rather exercise your right to remain silent. Oh, it's not that. Gusto here's a fan of the old meditation. You know, Om, and all that jazz. Wow, sleeping while standing seems pretty cool. That's one heck of a talent. Except there's no sleeping involved in meditation, Kay. Hey, Gusto, old pal, how about you snap out of it and tell us what went down way back when? Ha ha ha. I was caught in the girl's trap, so I must be the killer? Is this your idea of a joke? I'm the victim here. Indeed you are, Mr. Gusto. And there's no evidence you have done anything wrong yet. Mr. Edgeworth and Mr. Fender are merely speculating. Rest assured that they have no authority here, and that you may pay them no heed. At least somebody here seems to be on my side. Judge Verity Gavel, it is a pleasure, Mr. Gusto. I will assist you in any way you may require. Perhaps you could begin by explaining what actually happened 18 years ago to Mr. Edgeworth. Fine. You want me to prove him innocent, Mr. Prosecutor?
Objection!
So this is how you mean to play it, Judge Gavelle? You're hoping Mr. Gusto will help you to hide what happened instead of trying to correct the record? I believe only in the infallible judgment of the goddess of justice. Except it is us humans who make the actual judgment calls in a court of law. And so long as there are those who would use the law to their advantage, our rulings are fallible indeed. If you would use your position to further obscure the truth, then neither she nor I will forgive you. Ha ha, we'll see about that. What do you advise, Judge Gavelle? It would seem that you were under suspicion because it was you who triggered the poison gas, specifically by opening the Pisces case's lid. Would you be so kind as to share why with us? Understood. I came to see Frost's sculpture, simple as that. I made a mistake with the opening times and arrived a half hour early. Miss Bound, was there no one at the reception desk around that time? I had left the main entrance unguarded and unlocked, just in case the killer made an appearance. I was also busy making preparations elsewhere, all the way up until the gallery's opening. So no, there was no one here on the first floor then. But I did make sure that all the wings were locked up tight. All except for the autumn wing, that is. I see. She did all that just to steer the culprit into the autumn wing, which is precisely where Mr. Gusto went. Sneaking into a building's pretty suspicious, however you slice it. Silence in the courtroom. I will permit no objections or interventions unless there is some evidence that the witness is lying. Courtroom? You know this is an art gallery, right? Mr. Gusto? If you could please continue by explaining why you opened the Pisces case. I wanted to see Frost's work up close. So I went up to the Gemini. Sorry, I guess it was supposed to be the Pisces statue. And I saw that the lid was frozen on tight, so I grabbed the blowtorch from nearby and tried to open it. When I finally got it open, gas came pouring out. Fascinating. This is the sort of flawless testimony attorneys can only dream of. Yeah, the everything sounds like a lie kind. I am none too satisfied with Mr. Gusto's explanation myself. Alas, there is no evidence to refute it. Come on, there must be something. It's Bound's story you should be questioning, not mine. I'm not the one who set up the gas trap. She could have killed anybody with that thing.
Everybody would have been open. There's no reason to open it.
Exactly. She turned on the sprinklers as soon as the gas was released. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was gunning for the killer and nobody else. That killer being you, old pal. So you believe that self-confessed criminal. Miss Bound is far from blameless in this affair. She will have to pay for her crimes. But so will Mr. Frost's killer. You seem determined to pin Frost's murder on me, but I had no reason to kill him. And you have no evidence to prove otherwise. Can we really not prove that he's the killer, Mr. Edgeworth? Oh, my eyes bother me. Hold on. Mr. Gusto fell victim to the poison gas. Then much is indisputable. And no matter how suspicious his actions in the present may seem, they prove nothing about the past. Yeah, but then what about you, Mr. Fender? There must be something we can do. You're right. We may not have evidence, but we have plenty of intel. Let's see now. Gusto killed Frost. He must have had a reason. He claims not to have a motive, but that can't really be true, can it? If he did it, he has one. Not many people commit murder just for fun. In fact, your old man had a little back and forth with Von Karma about a probable motive too, remember?
You can see it in that picture. Something's wrong. The kids look happy.
Yeah.
But the dad's don't.
Von Karma wouldn't let us talk to Gusto back then, but we can now. If we can put the pieces together, I think the picture we've been looking for might just emerge. Yes, I think you might be right. We need to think back over everything we know about the IS-7 incident, especially the questions that never got answered. Miss ago and denied the finger marks on the frame were hers. But what if they were Mr. Gusto's? Perhaps he wanted to take a look through the Ultimate Cookbook for himself. So he asked me to go put in a new cartridge. More film had been used than Tangaroa expected, and someone else used the camera. Yeah, that's been like just something that's been out there with the camera. My father knows these things for a reason. I just need to piece them together correctly. The absence of evidence is the only way to the truth. Okay, while you think about this, I need to run some water in my eye, because my red eye's bothering me.
Is it because he wanted to cook?
Well, that could have been the motive. Although they kind of said it that if the cooperation ended, that'd be a motive. Like I think that's what Gregory said. There we go. Mr. Gusto, you and Mr. Frost conspired to create works for the contest together, did you not? Ah, so you know my little secret. Mr. Fender was kind enough to inform me. Mr. Frost was in charge of the designs, while you were in charge of the flavor, is that correct? What can I say? I still had a long way to travel on the road to becoming a master confectioner. But you only collaborated up through the semifinals. Something changed after that. We both wanted to show what we could do, show that we were better than Tinderella. Then why did you help Mr. Frost with his entry for the final? What grounds do you have to say that? Your own statement made to Mr. Von Karma 18 years ago. You told him that you had been working together right up until the day before the final.
Objection!
So why didn't Mr. Frost help you in return, I submit that your relationship broke down for some reason, and that became the basis of your motive for murder. That's not how it was. Sure, we stopped working together, but it was all perfectly friendly. You stopped working together in a friendly way. Kind of hard to imagine, but okay. Besides, how do you think I did it exactly? You think I just strolled into Tangaroa's room and killed Frost? I couldn't have killed the man while Tangaroa was in there working on his chocolate pieces, could I? So you see, it can't have been me. I wouldn't be so sure. There must be a window of time when Mr. Tangaroa wasn't in this room. And if I can prove that, I can prove that Mr. Gusto had the opportunity to kill Mr. Frost. We do something with the camera. No.
Why are we having such a tough time?
I don't know.
How about the timing of the murder and the film?
I literally just did that, babe. Let's see. He wanted to cookbook. Maybe, So was it the first two the whole time? Because we already had those two.
Are you missing something?
Photographing the cookbook's contents would be the perfect way to steal its secrets undetected. And what if Mr. Gusto did just that? What if he used Mr. Tangaroa's camera to photograph the book? It'd be the perfect crime, so much better than stealing it and getting chased by the cops. A sneaky snapshot or 20, huh? That could work. The only question is, when would he have done it? Good question. How about during afternoon tea? Didn't Alicia say that Gusto and Frost had missed out on the little tea party they had? Which brings me to the next question. When do we know for certain that Mr. Frost was still alive? Miss Scone, for Mr. Tangaroa's works, the only one you sampled. And now we only have two left. This is going to happen. We can be sure that Mr. Frost was alive until the beginning of afternoon tea, making tea time the only window during which Mr. Gusto could have killed him. Are you satisfied with Mr. Gusto's story now, Mr. Edgeworth? Yes, sadly, I'm afraid I'm still rather unsatisfied. But things are finally starting to become clear, and the truth will soon come to light at last. You mean to say that you have uncovered new evidence? Evidence? No, I was hoping I might convince Mr. Gusto to open up to us about it instead. Oh, is it mind games time again? It is. Mr. Gusto, I have a question for you. I said I have a question for you. What is it? You chose to make your entry for the final on your own. I told you I wanted to test myself. I wanted to prove I was the best in the world. If that were the case, then surely you wouldn't have chosen to cheat in the first place. So tell me, Mr. Gusto, why did you feel the need to team up with Mr. Frost? "18 years ago, Mr. Gusto and Mr. Frost collaborated in the confectionery contest. But why did they work together, and why did they enter the contest in the first place? That's the information I need to get out of my opponent somehow."
I think I know.
Why?
Because Gusto knows how to cook, but the other guy knows how to sculpt. So together they were the perfect pair. Separately, one lacked what the other one had.
Yeah, they're both trying to get those secrets. Alright. Seems to have a habit of pretending to be asleep when things aren't going his way. We'll start by focusing on why he chose to work with Mr. Frost. So when he pretends to go to sleep, then we attack. Mr. Gusto, what inspired you to collaborate with Mr. Frost? We were acquaintances before we were contestants. He was interested in entering the contest, so we decided to sign up together. And your decision to pair up with a sculptor had nothing to do with your lack of faith in your skills. You don't know me. We joined forces because we wanted to make the most perfect creations possible, that's all. Frost's son and mine were in the same grade at school, so we got along pretty well too. Oh, so you were just two friends who happened to try for the title of world's greatest confectioner. Yeah, pretending to be asleep when the going gets tough won't work on me, I'm afraid. Mr. Frost was a sculptor, Mr. Gusto. I doubt he cared much about winning a title for confectioners. In which case, he probably had a different motive for taking part in the contest, wouldn't you say? Fine, it was me. I wanted that title. Frost was only in it for the prize, the ultimate cookbook. I see. And since your objectives dovetailed so neatly, you decided to work together. But then something happened. A breakdown in your relationship, perhaps? If so, I want to know why. Mr. Prosecutor, I'm still quite unwell after my brush with death. Push me too hard, and I'll be on my way back to the medical room. No, wait. You'd better wrap this up quickly. I'm already dangerously low on patience. Mr. Gusto is trying desperately to make his escape, but he's not going anywhere yet. Not as long as he's still keeping things from me. Let's figure out what he was really after. There's no time to lose. You too had your eyes on something other than the title, didn't you? After all, I'm not sure the title of World's Greatest Confectioner even counts for that much. Huh? Now you're just insulting the way of the confectioner. My goal, my only goal, was to win that title. I didn't care about anything else. You have no idea how much it would have meant to me. Like, my sense of design may not have been up to snuff back then, but you should see me now. Oh, so you've improved. You bet I have. I didn't do all that training in Zheng Fa for nothing. I looked up to Tangaroa, you know. Spent hours poring over the designs of his work. Even used to watch his show with my son. Sounds to me like Mr. Tangaroa's work was especially influential in your early studies. And with this recipe book, you might have even become the best someday. Maybe. The book was a real treasure, no doubt about that. Any confectioner would have wanted it. Heh, you clear that your only goal was to win the title, yet you also seem to have an interest in the contest prize, the Ultimate Cookbook. The greatest collection of recipes by the world's greatest confectioner.
But that's not what it is. It's like pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, it's
So
totally...
do you not even actually understand what was in it?
Makes me wonder, especially if you took pictures of the inside. And even if I did, what exactly is so wrong with that? Nothing, I suppose. Only that the book contained recipes for medicines, not desserts. And everyone who entered the contest supposedly knew that. I feel like I'm finally getting somewhere. Can't let him slip from my grasp now. I just need to stay calm and keep the pressure on. Next, let's find out why he wanted the cookbook. Did you know how valuable the cookbook really was? What kind of question is that? It was a collection of Tangaroa's recipes. There wasn't a confectioner in the world who wouldn't have wanted to get their hands on it. I don't have a clue as to how to proceed with this line of questioning. I better try another attack. So your plan was to win the cookbook and use it to help you with your creations. What else? A book like that could have improved my craft tenfold. You could have made a lot of money if you'd sold it. I don't know much about what was actually in there, but it was worth more than money, I'll tell you that. Come now, Mr. Gusto. I think you know more about the Ultimate Cookbook than you claim. Now, they told us a little bit about it at the start of the contest. And then you know what kind of recipes it actually contained, don't you? And that they weren't dessert recipes at all. I see you did your homework. Fine, so you know what was really in there. The Ultimate Cookbook, or the Angel's Cookbook to give it its proper title. It's a collection of chemical formulas and ways to synthesize new medicines nobody ever heard of. So he did know that the cookbook actually contained recipes for medicines. This could be an important clue. Your designs may have improved thanks to your training in Zheng Fa, but you clearly didn't do enough work on your skills of deception. You already admitted that you knew the Ultimate Cookbook was a collection of recipes for medicines. Thereby making your interest not gastronomical, but pharmaceutical in nature. You're a confectioner, Mr. Gusto. You had no professional interest in revolutionary new medicines, which suggests that your interest must have been personal. Ah, I underestimated you. Fine, you're right. Winning the title wasn't the only reason I entered the contest. I needed one of the recipes in that book. It was for my son. He was sick. He was? Tell me more. That's none of your business. I've told you as much as you need to know. He looks rattled, but I can't let him off the hook. What is the mystery illness? What's the name of your son's condition? Tell me more about your son. Could you tell me the name of the disease your son suffered from? You're a real cold customer, Mr. Prosecutor.
Take the way. Going to kill.
Sweeten the deal. Here we go. Tell me a little more about your son. He was my pride and joy and my biggest fan. And you entered the contest in order to help him. You clearly don't have any children of your own. Any father would have done the same. I would have done anything to help him. Anything. He would come see me here at the contest venue too, right up to the semi-final. Really, he didn't get in the way of your work. If you were trying to beat Samson Tangaroa, surely you didn't have the time to look after a child. Yeah, well, I wanted to do what I could for him. He said he wanted to always be the first to try my creations. I'm still recovering, so if you got nothing to say, let me go back to the medical room. Aw, but he didn't go to sleep. So he wasn't too sick to join you. You said your son was sick, Mr. Gusto, and yet he was able to come and join you for the contest? It wasn't that kind of illness, nothing life-threatening anyway. This feels like it could be an important clue. So you needed the cookbook to cure your son. Yeah, nowadays you can get the medication he needed anywhere. But back then, the book was our only hope. Which is why I didn't dare waste my time on fancy tea parties. I had to give my all to my work. And what about Mr. Tangaroa's work? Surely that tea break gave you the perfect opportunity to go steal a glance at it? And what makes you think I had the energy or time to care about what others had made? I'm still recovering, so if you got nothing to say, let me go back to the medical room. But you cared about Mr. Tangaroa's work. I think you made it abundantly clear how much interest you had in Mr. Tangaroa's work. What's more, if you were that determined to win the Ultimate Cookbook, I seriously doubt you would have passed up on a chance to take a peek at your competitor's entries. I'd have plenty of chances throughout the contest to see and sample my rival's work, you know. But each time I did, nothing seemed to have any flavor. Must have been nerves or something. No, wasn't there something about, like, taste stuff? Does he have the illness? Could you tell me the name of the disease your son suffered from? You've already shared with me that your son's illness wasn't life-threatening, so why are you so reluctant to share any further details? It may not have been life-threatening, but that doesn't mean it hadn't been life-altering. I see, that must have been very hard on both of you. Of course it was. That's why I did everything that I could to find a cure. We were desperate. He couldn't taste anything, not even his favorite desserts. As I understand it, the Ultimate Cookbook contains the recipe for a very particular medication. One that Mr. Tangaroa used to cure himself of his own taste disorder. So he had a 2. 2, you said? So your son had a taste disorder then, am I correct? How did I let that slip? You've been asking me to believe that you needed to win the cookbook in order to cure your son. Was that really the case? Of course it was. What are you saying? I'm saying that I'm not so sure that's true based on everything you've told me. Time to deploy my clue. Taste disorders are difficult to live with. It isn't easy not being able to enjoy your food. You should know. After all, you just told me you'd experienced something like that during the contest. You said that nothing you sampled had any flavor. Those were your words, correct? Which would seem to suggest that you were suffering from a taste disorder. Confectioner without a sense of taste? Not exactly ideal. Are you sure it wasn't actually your own condition you were seeking a cure for, Mr. Gusto? But enough of your speculations. I managed just fine in that contest, made all my own entries no problem. Sorry, but I'm afraid you're contradicting your own testimony. You already admitted that you and Mr. Frost had worked together during the contest. It's too late to claim you did it all on your own now. Ugh. You would have us believe that you are a man of principle, a dedicated student of the confectioner's art. Yet you abandoned those principles and conspired with Mr. Frost to rig the contest. Also, you could cure your own taste disorder. You got me, Mr. Prosecutor. As you said, my sense of taste was shot. My son's was fine. I kept it hidden for so long. 18 years and nobody knew. Sadly, you can lie to others, but you can't lie to me. Both Mr. Gusto and Mr. Frost entered the contest hoping to obtain the ultimate cookbook, the medicine that would cure Mr. Gusto's disorder, and the money it would bring in for Mr. Frost. Thus, an uneasy alliance was forged. And that, I believe, is checkmate. I'll admit it, you're good. I never told anybody any of this, but you figured it out anyway. It's true, 18 years ago I developed agusia. What's agusia? It's a taste disorder that makes it so you can't taste anything at all. A confectioner's worst nightmare. Mr. Fender, is this what Mr. Tangaroa had as well? No, the big man had what they call dissociated taste disorder. Basically, some things he could taste just fine, while others had no flavor at all. So he suffered too. Can't have been easy. Not when there wasn't a way to cure on the market. Which is why you needed Mr. Tangaroa's cookbook. You admit now that that was the real reason you entered the contest. It was only one of the reasons. I wasn't lying when I said I wanted the title. When I put my mind to something, it gets done, and I won't lose to anybody. I may not have been able to taste it then, but I still knew my stuff was good enough to win. Oh, so you went into the final thinking you stood a chance at winning. Of course. What was it the Fender said about what Mr. Tangaroa thought of Mr. Gusto's creations? We were told that your entry for the final was far from the prize-winning taste sensation you describe. What happened, Mr. Gusto? What went wrong that day? Fine. You want me to talk? I'll talk, but you're not going to like what I have to say. Okay, here we go. Frost and I were working together right up through the semi-final. I handled the flavor, he did the designing. But I wanted to face Tangaroa in the final on my own. No help, just me and my skills. So I helped Frost with his entry, but mine I did alone. If it didn't taste good in the final, that's on me. What can I say? I lack training. And that's all there is to it. Happy now? There doesn't seem to be any obvious contradiction in his testimony. Yep, not that I thought it'd be easy to get anything real out of him. He's managed to not slip what really happened for 18 years after all. Why don't you try pushing him a bit, Malserino? See if you can't shake something loose. I think I just might have to, Fender. So he's said this before. Frost was in charge of designing the work you both submitted, while you handled the taste. He was a sculptor, a craftsman, and his sense of design was second to none. But he was clueless about confectionery, which is where I came in. We each did what the other couldn't. Heh, and the boy did not have an eye for aesthetics, not even for the simple stuff. Ugh. How do you like me now? Yeah, the national symbol of Zangfa. Oh yeah, it's a phoenix, that's awesome. I'll say, pretty different to the stuff you were pumping out 18 years ago. Ah ha ha ha, behold the fruits of my training. I've dedicated my whole life to my craft, but back then we both needed each other's help, so we joined hands until the final.
Hold it!
You were serious about winning the title then? Of course, the art of confectionery is my life. Why wouldn't I have wanted to be crowned the greatest? But I still had a lot to learn back then. Guess it's no surprise my work wasn't up to scratch. But the title wasn't the only thing you wanted, there was the cookbook too. And you wanted the book even more than you wanted the title, isn't that right, Mr. Gusto?
Overruled!
Mr. Edgeworth, you are badgering a witness who is still suffering the effects of today's attack. I cannot allow this harassment to continue. I understand, Your Honor, but ignore him, Mr. Gusto. You need not answer that vile prosecutor's question. But please do continue your testimony in your own time.
Hold it!
Do that last one. And yet, I heard that your creations prior to the final were scored highly for their flavor. So what went wrong? Was there some kind of cooking accident on that day? No, nothing like that. It was I told you. I had a taste disorder. The sense of taste failed me, it's as simple as that. But Mr. Frost's entry was complimented on its flavor. Your sense of taste hadn't failed you then? Did something happen overnight? I don't think he's going to spill any more beans, Mr. Edgeworth. Perhaps I should ask him about something else. Try the semifinal. Something changed between the semifinal and the final, Mr. Gusto. Not really. The only difference between the semifinal and the final was that Frost wasn't helping me.
Hold it!
So you really completed your final entry without Mr. Frost's help. I may not have had his designs to lean on, but I knew I was still solid when it came to flavor. So the visuals were the only thing that changed between the semifinal and the final. You sure, Gusty, old pal? Gonna have to call you out on that, I'm afraid. It wasn't just its looks that got a big thumbs down come judgment time. It got trashed on flavor, too. Doesn't sound like much of a winner to me. Despite his confidence, Mr. Gusto failed on flavor, too. The lack of Mr. Frost's assistance shouldn't have affected that. So was there some other difference? An 18-year-old mystery. Unless it's reverse, unless he's the one who's better at designing and he was just pretending not to design and Frost was better on taste.
He's an actual sculptor. Remember the fall?
Yeah. So there's that, and
Somebody else sabotaged.
which could be as well. Let's ask him something else in that last one.
Hold it!
You knew of Mr. Frost from before the contest, correct? You remembered, I see. My son and Frost used to go to elementary school together.
Hold it!
See that? There was no coincidence that you both entered the contest, correct? Yeah, I heard about it first, and I told Frost. I knew he'd be interested. He was always short of cash for his sculptures. That's right, Mr. Frost was always supposedly in financial trouble, wasn't he? The cookbook is really worth that much, huh? I see that glint in your eye, kiddo. Don't get your great thieving hopes up yet. It was worth a lot back then. But these days you can find some of the stuff in there on almost any drugstore shelf. Oh, bummer. So literally every last contestant only ever had eyes for that cookbook, I see. I can think of one significant difference between the semifinal and the final, Mr. Gusto. Your son, this is him in the photograph, correct? You told me he was there with you up through the semifinal. He was. What of it? What indeed? He was here with you until the semifinal, until he suddenly wasn't for the
Is
final.
the kid helping him cook?
Huh. And just as suddenly, your work went from being lauded for its flavor to being lambasted for it. I don't think that's a coincidence, do you? He wasn't just spending quality time with his father, he was playing a much more pivotal role than that. I just wanted him to see me hard at work, to show him I was trying my best for us. Who knows, maybe it was him being here that helped me do so well in those early rounds. He talks a good game, but there's something about this guy screams super dad to me. Indeed, thankfully, we would only have to give such an idea credence if his story was true. Were true, after all, how much could the encouragement of one small boy caught the taste of a grown man's work? Mr. Gusto prided himself on the flavor of his creations, but then he lost his sense of taste. He must have had a tough time maintaining his high standards after such a devastating loss, unless... I'm sure your son was here to cheer you on, but that wasn't all he was here to do, was it? You're a very suspicious man, Mr. Prosecutor, but why not trying answering yourself for a change? What was an elementary school kid doing here other than to support his father? To make your creations for you. Your son was the one making your entries for the contest, wasn't he? My son was no confectioner. He was an elementary school kid. I doubt he even knew how to boil them. Oh, he was tasting it! That way he could tell him if it was too salty, too sweet. Your son knew the taste of your work pretty well, I imagine, Mr. Gusto? He was my biggest fan, of course he knew it. In which case, he would have been a good judge of whether something tasted on brand, so to speak. No? What are you implying? You already told us that you were suffering from a taste disorder. I'll admit it, you're good, never told anybody. No one knew about your condition. Indeed, I doubt Mr. Frost would have wanted to continue collaborating with you had he found out. After all, it was your job to make sure his creations tasted good. Therefore, your son wasn't just here to support you. He was helping you by taste testing your work. Dang, now it all makes sense. Frost's stuff tasted good because it really was finished the day before when the kid was still here. You have a vivid imagination, Mr. Prosecutor. But do you seriously think I trust a kid to tell me how to adjust the taste of my masterpieces? I have some pride, you know, even back then. Did you now? My designs may not have been much to write home about back then, but I always knew my work tasted better than anybody else's. You'd think I'd risk everything by putting my reputation on the hands of a child. It's just more speculation, that's all it is. In that case, I ask to speak with your son this instant. Let's see how much of your story he can corroborate. Sadly for you, my son is no longer my concern. What? As soon as I got my sense of taste back, I went straight to Zangfa to start my training. Cut off all ties with the kid for good. What? You abandoned your own child? And that ain't the half of it. No one knows where he is even now. The cops have looked all over for him, but no dice. So, still think you can prove your asinine theory? I'd like to see you try. Yeah, you think I care about anything besides confectionery? Yeah. I got the taste back. What need do I have for a son? Wow, okay. Silence in the courtroom. While Mr. Gusto's words and actions may demonstrate a certain lack of humanity on his part, the goddess of justice cannot judge him for that. Therefore, Mr. Edgeworth, I believe it is time for you to admit defeat. Yeah, give it up. 18 years is a long time for anything to surface now, but people otherwise. Mr. Edgeworth, we have to do something. If we don't, the truth might be lost forever.
Something with that book, this has led to a foreign country.
That's right! That's right! Ha ha! Where are you, Detective Gumshoe? Oh, that'd be horrific. Sorry to get it in your mind powers time, but I was pondering something myself. Our friend Gusto didn't come here just to check up on the body, did he? Because he tried to open the case? Exatmundo, think we have anything that might explain why he tried to do that? We might. Detective Gumshoe can make it back in time with a certain piece of evidence. It's quite enough idle chatter, Defense. Now if you... Mr. Edgeworth, sir, sorry to keep you waiting. I speak of the devil. I take it you have the test results, Detective? Yes, sir. The lab just got back to me. Detective, please, court is in session. Now then, am I right to assume that you are bringing us the evidence Mr. Edgeworth was just speaking of? What? Hey, no fair. Why didn't anyone tell me about any of this? It is indeed the evidence in question, Your Honor. It needs testing, so I asked him to carry it out. What the? Why is everybody always helping you? I'm supposed to be the one in charge here. Mr. Winter, I'm sorry I didn't involve you, but this is important. Can we at least hear what the detective has to say? Well, alright. So, Detective Gumshoe, what did the test have to tell us? You're not going to believe this, but the owner of the blood we found in the liquid at the bottom of the Gemini case is Carmelo Gusto, the victim of the poison gas attack. What are you talking about? Thank you, Detective. You've been very helpful. Well, it looks like my suspicions were correct. What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? Yes, what do you mean? Explain yourself. What is the significance of this blood in this case? It's only the very thing the perpetrator of the IS-7 incident has been trying to hide all these years. The fact that your blood was found inside the Gemini case, Mr. Gusto, is as good as us finding your body lying right next to Mr. Frost's body.
Overruled.
Why would there be traces of your blood there of all places, Mr. Gusto? If you want to answer Your Honor, Mr. Gusto, then I will. There wasn't just blood in the liquid from the Gemini case. There were traces of salt and sugar, too. There were? If you remember, one particular part of Mr. Frost's work was allegedly very salty indeed. Oh yeah! You're talking about what Delicia told us back then, right? What was it again? Best day ever. I've never tried ice and silk sculptures in all my life. Yes, the liar, and only the liar, tasted it as if it had been flavored with salt. I think it's liar. I think it's liar, but there were no traces of salt anywhere else in Mr. Frost's entry. Very interesting, and perhaps you can tell us, Mr. Edgeworth, where did the salt in the liar come from? Oh, the salt lamp! With the blood on it.
Take that!
This is the lamp from the IS-7 incident? Indeed, and I believe that the salt that gave the liar its flavor came from just such a lamp. Mr. Von Karma had established that both salt lamps were in Mr. Tangaroa's room at the time of the crime. One of them was used to kill Mr. Frost. And it was stained with his blood. But no corresponding pool of blood was found in Mr. Tangaroa's room. Right, because the culprit had chucked a piece of chocolate with that on it into the little stream. Furthermore, aside from the liar, no traces of salt were found anywhere in Mr. Frost's room either. Hey, come to think of it, the lamps we found in Delicia's room were both broken. The lamps appear to be broken. Bulbs are smashed, both of them. Maybe they fell and broke on the floor. We never did figure out how the one that wasn't used to kill Frost got busted, but are we thinking maybe it had Gusto's blood on it at some point? Anyone whose blood was found on one of the lambs would have been a person of interest to the police. So the killer needed to hide the blood somehow, in a way that wouldn't arouse suspicion. And you are seriously suggesting that the liar was used to do just that? I am. I suspect that the bloody salt was somehow applied to the liar so that it could be hidden inside the case. Because unlike the fountain water, the sculptures would have needed more time and care to test properly. And so he waited and waited for his chance to dispose of the liar undetected. Then the reason he's here today is 18 years ago, Mr. Frost's body and the evidence pointing to his killer were taken away together. This, of course, was not part of the perpetrator's plan, and thus a new dilemma arose. The possibility that the body, the incriminating evidence, or both would resurface one day. So back he comes 18 years later, sneaking in bright and early to track and cover his tracks. Well, Mr. Gusto, are you finally ready to admit it? That you are the one responsible for the IS-7 incident? I think I see where this is going, too. He's going to eventually admit it, but he's going to say statute of limitations over, and then we're going to say, nah, you went to saying fa. Mr. Gusto, it's all because of you that Samson... Yeah, Gusto. So I finally got caught, huh? All these years later? Nobody came close back then. Not even the big shot prosecutor or the attorney. That's some impressive work, Mr. Prosecutor. I have to hand it to you. You admit it then, that you murdered Artie Frost. Yeah, Sure, I do. I did it, I killed him. But he only had himself to blame. What do you mean by that? He agreed to help me. We were supposed to help each other so that one of us could win. And whoever won was supposed to let the other use the cookbook. But on the day of the final, the rat finally showed his true colors. Seriously, Frost, we had a deal. Sorry, I'm not helping you in the final. Our little agreement is over, Gusto. But I helped you! I spent all day yesterday making the ice for your pieces. Did you? And you can prove that, I suppose? What do you wait? You were planning to betray me right from the start, weren't you? Artie Frost double-crossed me. I had to make my piece for the final by myself. And like you said, my son wasn't there, so I didn't have any help with the flavor either. So much for the pride you claim to have in your ability to make delicious desserts. Go ahead and judge. You had no idea what it was like for someone like me to lose my sense of taste. I gave up everything to become the best. Everything. I take pride in that. Something someone like you can never understand. You're right, I don't understand. Do you take pride in the fact that you resorted to murder? Or that you abandoned your son? Why would I want to understand someone who can do such things? A man can't afford to rely on other people. I learned that the hard way 18 years ago. My son never showed up on the day of the final. And in hindsight, I wouldn't be surprised if Frost was the reason why. Why would you think that? What exactly happened to your son? How am I supposed to know? I told you, he's not of my concern anymore. And according to you guys, nobody knows where he is now either. You don't care? You're horrible. And with his disappearance, so too went your chances of winning, correct? Yeah, I had to find another way of getting my hands on that book. That's when inspiration struck. I decided to skip afternoon tea and snuck into Tangaroa's room. It should have been so easy. All I had to do was photograph the formulas I needed to get out of there. Then Frost showed up. I thought I might find you here, stealing recipes from the famous cookbook. Tut tut tut. Frost! What's this, a cure for taste disorders? Oh no, that's just too tragic. Confectioner who can't taste anything, what will people say? If you tell anybody, You'll what? You can't even hit me, you miserable worm. Why, you... Frost shoved me hard when I went to punch him. Knocked me clean off my feet. Crashed into one of the lamps. Must have been when my blood got on it. So Mr. Frost wasn't the first to get hurt. When it was all over, I realized I had to get rid of that blood somehow, so I scraped off all the bloody bits. I dissolved those salt shavings in some flavored ice mixture, brushed it all over the hearth. That's how you made the evidence linking you to the murder vanish. Frost was going to blackmail me. He would have made me give him money to keep quiet about my condition. So you decided you had to kill him. Yeah, I guess I did. Why would I let him live? Would you want someone holding something like that over your head? Besides, he's the one who drew first blood. Makes for a solid case of self-defense, don't you think? That was the impetus behind it all. Anyway, I initially took the lamp to Frost's room. Went straight there once I figured out how I was going to hide the bloody part. Inspired by all the ice sculpting tools lying about the place, I guess? You're not as dumb as you pretend to be. Yeah, I figured I could use them to chip it off and grind it up. Once that was done, painting the stuff all over the heart was easy. But why Samson? Why did you have to frame him? I never meant for the cops to pin it on him. That was your fault, you and the rest of them. Why do you think I went to the trouble of placing the lamps and cloths back in Scone's room? There's only one reason to plant the murder weapon in the room of another contestant. That's to cast suspicion on that person. What? You tried to frame me, Gusty Pants? Yeah. But why? Why poor old me? I respected Tangaroa. He was the best, a true champion. I would never have wanted him to take the fall. But you're a fraud. Your work wasn't even real. You had no respect for our craft at all. You deserve to be punished for what you did. Oh, Gusty, how could you? And had you refrained from eating Tangaroa's work, Frost's body wouldn't have been found. Our plan was to wait until Tangaroa was judging your room. That's when I'd sneak the corpse into Frost's room and freeze it. Thanks to you, Bound here found it before I had a chance to retrieve it. I don't understand. Why did you need to freeze his body at all? Ah, why indeed? Mr. Edgeworth, surely you must know. Why did Mr. Gusto need to free Mr. Frost's body? To obscure the time of death, to hide the true crime scene. I don't think the time of death has been made relevant yet. The reason Mr. Gusto had to freeze the body was to hide the true scene of the crime from the police. So you want to confuse them over where it really happened? That's one heck of an icy glare from Judge Gavelle, Mr. Edgeworth. Alright, message received. Mr. Gusto needed to freeze it in order to pass it off as an ice sculpture. Is that really why? Oh, okay, I got it wrong all times. So it is the time of death. If they determined that the murder occurred during afternoon tea, he would have been an obvious suspect. Heh, bingo. Freezing Frost's body wasn't simple. Preparing everything took time. So I decided to put his body in the chest in Tangaroa's room while I got everything ready in Frost's. At the time, it seemed like the perfect hiding place. Never counted on some gluttonous pharmacist showing up and making the whole strip collapse. I still don't get it, though. Why disguise the body as an ice sculpture at all? The sooner it was found, the smaller the effect of freezing it would have had on masking the time of death. Therefore, he needed to disguise it, at least until it fully frozen. How awful. Using Mr. Frost's own work to help you cover up the truth behind his murder. Ironically, Tangaroa would have been just fine if the body hadn't been found before I got it out of his room. If only things had gone to plan, he wouldn't have even been arrested, let alone convicted. You mean, it was my fault. Everything that happened to Samson. It was all because I found the body. Don't let him get inside your head, Jude. None of this is your fault. If it wasn't Samson, it would have been Delicia instead. She would have been the one they arrested. Either way, there's only one person to blame here, and that's Gusto. It didn't help that the initial detective was so bad at his job, either. He never even told the prosecutor that the body had vanished. So that Mr. Von Karma had unwillingly placed Mr. Tangaroa under arrest in the absence of a body. I mean, I guess it would explain why he was so keen to wrap things up. Still, you'd think he noticed something as big as that if he had taken a look at a few reports, right? Not if someone had been deliberately distorting the facts of the case, though. Either way, it seems that Mr. Von Karma didn't know about the body until after the arrest had been made. But admitting that would have spoiled his perfect record. So he kept it to himself and proceeded to prosecute Mr. Tangaroa regardless. Can this really be true? You don't feel bad at all? Somebody spent 18 years in prison because of you. Heh heh. Sticks and stones, girlie, sticks and stones. What a jerk. I ought to arrest you right now, pal.
Right.
Yeah. I'm afraid I can't allow you to do that, detective. Statute of limitations? Eh. So you notice, huh? That somebody did. Judge is right, you can't lay a finger on me. What? Why? You just confessed to murder. Heh heh heh. No idea, huh? Then I guess I'd better lay it out for you. I killed Frost 18 years ago. The statute of limitations for murder in this country is 15 years. You do the math, you can't arrest me. You think I'd confessed otherwise? That's right, the statute of limitations is only 15 years. Is this really the end of the line, Mr. Edgeworth? Once the statute had expired, he can't be charged, so... But, how unfortunate, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm afraid that both Mr. Gusto's confession and your deductions will have to be struck from the record, and that Mr. Tangaroa's conviction will remain in place. Gavel, seriously, that's goddess justice stuff? Even if we can't arrest Mr. Gusto, surely Mr. Tangaroa has grounds for a retrial on that basis. Does he? I wouldn't be so sure. I'm afraid that the goddess's judgment are somewhat harder to overturn than you might imagine. So the committee means for the verdict from 18 years ago to stand no matter what. Bad luck, Mr. Prosecutor! There must be something we can do, something to bring Mr. Gusto down. So I'm just gonna go ahead and... You went out.
Objection!
Can't yet, huh?
Hold it!
Depending on your actions over the last 18 years, the statute may not have expired yet. This ought to be good. Alright, I got nothing to hide. If there's something you want to ask it. Very well, tell me where you've been and what you've been doing since the incident. Sure, not long after the contest, I was able to cure my taste disorder thanks to the formula from that book. I went to Sang Fa to really buckle down on my craft. That explains a lot. We tried to contact you after the fact, but I guess you were long gone by then. Could be. I left, let's see, around a year after the murder. It was before Tangaroa's last day in court. Going to Zhang Fa was the best thing I ever did. Flavor, design, I'm the full package now. All in the backs of those whose lives you destroyed. What's an omelet without a few eggs? Nothing, Mr. Prosecutor, nothing. You're evil. Yeah, sticks and stones, girlie. You can't arrest me, and that's all that matters. Need more to work with. There has to be something I can get out of him. Let's do his training in Zhangfa. I'd like to ask more about what you did with your training in Zhangfa, if you wouldn't mind.
Objection!
There we go. The statute of limitations for murder is subject to the following condition. The statute is suspended should the suspect flee to a foreign country, which means that the time you spend abroad doesn't count toward the total time under the statute. No way, so it's like someone hit pause while he was in Zhangfa? It appears that there may be some time left on the clock yet. That will depend on how long you stayed in Zhangfa, Mr. Gusto. It was 3 years. 3 years, hold on. Nobody say anything until I've done the math. The murder happened 18 years back, the statute is 15 years. Add the 3 overseas. 15 plus 3 makes exactly 18. Which means no way. Mr. Edward, you did it. The statute hasn't expired after all. Heh heh heh. Bingo, 18 years exactly. Glad you worked it out for yourselves. He's just been stringing us along this whole time. Why is he laughing? We're good, aren't we? We can arrest him now. I hate to break it to you, little sis, but IS-7 went down at the end of December. It's April now, which means, strictly speaking, it's been 18 years and 4 months since Frost's murder. If Gusto's stay in Zhangfa really lasted 3 years on the nose, it's not enough. We're a few months short. Not enough, but what did I tell you? You can't touch me. Yeah. I hate to admit it, but he's read the board well when he made his confession. How unfortunate, Mr. Edgeworth. If only the statute had been suspended for another year. Those who would overturn the goddess's judgment must be willing to pay the price should they fail. And you, Mr. Edgeworth, have failed. No. There must be something I can do. I knew it. Well, if the law can't bring Mr. Gusto to justice, then... Jude, what are you thinking?
Objection!
There's no need to go adding to your rap sheet just yet. We're not done here, far from it, because there's still a way we can nail him. There is? Alright, Miles Sereno, pep talk. I think you need to think back over everything we know about the case. Gusto's overlooked one critical thing that you yourself were led to believe wrongly about. Which is? He wasn't there for Samson's last trial, remember? Best I can tell, he doesn't seem to know what the final verdict that came down that day is. Which means there's still one way left to us. Talk open your statutes for dummies there and take another look. 17 years ago, they really did a number on Samson and framed him like a pretty picture. But if we make good use of that verdict now, we can make Gusto pay in full for what he's done. The time of any accomplice's indictment to the end of their trial. The trial took a year. Ender, are you?
Those who would overturn the goddess's judgment must be willing to pay the price should they fail. Samson's my client, Miles, and I can't bring myself to use the source of his pain as a weapon in this fight. So whether we play our last card or not, it's going to have to be up to you.
Bringing Mr. Gusto to justice can only happen if I use the outcome of that hard-fought trial. So should I raise an objection and play that card or not? Yeah, raise it! My father and Mr. Von Karma, one sought to reveal the truth, the other to hide it. I know which path I choose to follow, the one that seeks to reveal the truth. This court has reached its final verdict. The record will state that Mr. Gusto has been found not guilty on all counts. No, Your Honor, Mr. Carmelo Gusto is absolutely guilty, and I refuse to let him walk away. His crimes are too unspeakable to go unpunished. Do you mean to suggest that you have grounds upon which to call for his arrest? I do.
Take that!
Oh, no. I gotta, get the notes on the, trial. Because the notes say it took a year.
Take that!
Oh. I thought it was an order that was not suspect gate I clicked on. Although I don't see why it's relevant. Convicted as an accomplice. And it took around 1 year from his indictment for that verdict to be reached. Yes, that does seem to be the case. The book you gave us details certain conditions pertaining to the statute of limitations for murder. One of them, as I mentioned, is that the statute is suspended if the suspect flees the country. And another states that
The statute is suspended from the time of any accomplice's indictment to the end of the trial. What? Tangaroa was convicted as an accomplice? Yep, guess you were in Zhangfa when the verdict came down. Samson was convicted as an accomplice, not as the main perpetrator, which is clearly news to you, and not good news either, am I right? But how can that be? Tangaroa wasn't an accomplice to anyone. He was innocent, and you know it. We know it. It's what we've been trying to prove all along. And in a pleasing twist of fate, his wrongful conviction will be the very thing that sets him free. If you spent 3 years in Zhangfa, and your accomplice, Samson Tangaroa, was on trial for 1 year, it means you can still be charged with Mr. Frost's murder up to 19 years after the fact. In other words, the statute of limitations hasn't expired at all. The goddess's just judgment is infallible, but that of her servants it appears not. It seems the prosecutor in charge of this case may have erred. Unbelievably, we may have no choice but to instigate a full inquiry. No, how could this... weren't supposed to be... 18 years, that's a long time to let somebody else suffer for your crimes. It's time to pay the piper, Gusto, not a moment too soon. But I'm finally the greatest. My brilliance has been recognized. I gave up everything for this. Everything, even my son. More's the pity. But you can't run from the law forever, because the bills come due at last. Oh dear.
Oh, what is that?
That's actually impressive.
Pot of sugar?
Just cut it in half. Mr. Gusto's all set for his trip downtown, sir. Oh, good. Which means it's your turn next, right? I suppose so. Judes. I'm so sorry, everybody. I've caused you all so much trouble. But thank you. Thank you so much for bringing Mr. Gusto to justice at last. I'm afraid there's no escaping the consequences of your actions, Miss Bound. But those actions were born of legal mistakes that were made all those years ago. We all know that. So allow me to apologize in return, on behalf of the prosecution. I know I have no one to blame but myself for it all, starting with those sculptures. Hey, Jude, you think maybe you might want me to represent you? I'm not some nervous newbie anymore. There's no way I'm letting you take the rap for everything. Oh, I'd be honored. Thank you, Mr. Pender. Sorry, ma'am, but you gotta come with me now. Of course. Judge Gavelle, why did you lie to us? Lie? What are you talking about? You implied that there was no case for a retrial, but as we've proven, that wasn't true. Surely anyone truly committed to seeing justice done would have called one as soon as the body was found. I am under no obligation to answer such questions, and you clearly have no intention of doing so either. Truly, you are proving to be quite a threat to the Committee of Prosecutorial Excellence. As such, you gave me little choice but to report back on your continued transgressions. No doubt you will be called to appear before the committee in due course.
So we can just lie and it's fine?
Yeah. How are we committing transgressions? She doesn't have to answer to us?
I know where she could put that cat.
Yeah, I got an idea too. What the heck? And after you caught the real killer and everything? Isn't that what prosecutors are supposed to do? Regardless of how it may play out, I will never regret what we accomplished here today. Mr. Edgeworth. Hey, Mr. Edgeworth. Yes? Why did you stick your nose in this case anyway? You weren't even on the job. My job is to bring the truth to light, Mr. Winger. Not only as a prosecutor, but as a person. I don't get it. I wouldn't expect you to understand, not as long as you believe that closing a case makes you a winner. That's going way over my head. I'm going home. What was that all about? Eustace still has a lot to learn, is all. Milesy Wilesy. Yes? I just wanted to say old Greggy Pegleg would have been proud of you today. Oh, look at me tearing up. That, and thanks for helping poor Sammy Poople. Of course. Hey, Etchy, looks like you cleared everything up, huh?
So what happened exactly? I was kind of busy sketching. Wait, where did Judy and Verity go? Wow, you really weren't paying attention, were you? Though I am loath to admit it, Verry's sketches did come through for us more than an occasion. Not that I'm about to tell it. Put it with the glaring, will ya? Whatever I did, I'm sorry. Calm down, Lyra. I wasn't glaring at you. Yeah, you totally were. You're just like your pop. He was a terrible liar, too. He was? Listen, I'm gonna go head out. I need to fill Samson and then we'll get down today. You wanna come with? Yeah, of course. Great, then I'm coming too. So what's Mr. Tangaroa like? I can't wait to finally meet him. Oh, he's a real sweetheart. You'll love him. Even while locked up, he can't help but make all sorts of cookies and cakes for everyone. That's why 3 p.m. cake extravaganza is a thing for prisoners and guards alike. Really? That sounds awesome. You think there'll be any left for us to try? Did we find a few slices of chocolate cake in the prison the other day? Could they have been some of Mr. Tangaroa's baked goods? Gummy, what are you doing here? I heard you all were coming to see Mr. Tangaroa, so I volunteered to escort him. Hello, new friends. I'm Samson Tangaroa. Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth at your service. And I'm Mr. Edgeworth's trusty sidekick, Kate Faraday. Hey, it's nice to meet you both. Miles here is Gregory's son. Is that so? My father was very kind to me and fought so hard for my case. And in the end, I betrayed him. I made a false confession and... Don't worry, Mr. Tangaroa. Mr. Pender has explained everything to me. Sure did. Now we're here to tell you the truth about what happened 18 years ago. Truth? Judy did all that for me. Crazy kid racked her brain for 18 years until she'd finally figured out how to set you free. What can I say? Turns out she really would do anything for you. Oh, Judy, I never did anything to deserve such devotion. Come now, Mr. Tangaroa. I think we both know that's not true. The bond between the two of you has held strong for all these years after all. I think so. I guess I better show him. Which piece of evidence is proof of the bond Mr. Tangaroa and Miss Bound share? Is it this?
The cookbook?
Would that be it?
I don't think it's a tea thing because there was poison in it.
True. And that's a Paul Halik thing.
Although she did try to get a lot of things of Paul Halik for him. But they were both looking out for the interest of that cookbook.
True. Let's do that.
Take that!
This shows the bond between Judy and I. I guess I can see it. Uh-oh.
What was the real answer?
I guess we'll never know. I'm sorry it's taken so long. Nobody should have to wait 18 years to get justice. Yeah. Google the answer, what we were supposed to do. Aw, he's crying. Samson. Well, I guess it's my turn to wait for Judy to come home now. I better make sure there's something delicious on the table for her when she finally walks through that door. Don't let me down, Eddie. Leave it to me, big guy. The IS-7 incident. It's been 18 long years, but this case we'd inherited from my father is finally coming to a close. Hey, Miles, thanks for today. Sorry for forcing you to make the final call like that. Not at all, I simply made the call that felt right to me. Now, what are you guys talking about? You know how Samson was wrongly convicted? We had to pretend that he wasn't in order to nail Gusto. But to use his false conviction against them, even to save him. As his lawyer, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Yeah, I can see that. Now that Gusto's behind bars, we can finally start to get that wrongful conviction overturned. Yeah, and I'm sure you will. Wait a minute, does this mean that even if you were doing what's right, if the false conviction had been overturned before today, Mr. Gusto would have just gotten away scot-free? Yep. It's what we folks in the trade like to call a legal contradiction. The law is far from perfect. Because of things like legal contradictions, right? Yeah, but you never know. Things might change. The law is always evolving, just like us humans. Your Uncle Eddie and Miles Sereno included, am I right? Potential for growth and change. People in the law, huh? So, Miles, are you going to keep fighting crime as a prosecutor, or help people as an attorney? Something tells me you've got a big decision ahead of you, one only you can answer. I know. Well, let's just say I won't complain if you show up at the office one day. And on that note, it's time for me to skedaddle. I owe you big time, and I always repay my debts, but for now, thanks again for today. I mean it. We seem kind of in a hurry to get out of here, to you. We did. And honestly speaking, I'm the one who owes him a great debt of gratitude. After all, he gave me the chance to reckon with my father's final case. When I was a boy, all I ever dreamed of was becoming a attorney like my father. But then during my time with Mr. Von Karma, I went the way of the prosecutor instead. Eventually, with the help of some good friends, I found my own voice and a new way to live. And now my career as a prosecutor is at risk of being taken away from me. It may be time to take another long, hard look at how I want to live my life, whether I like it or not.
I love the answers.
Doesn't say?
Mhm.
Usually it'll say, like, present this on, like, an FAQ. Hey, Gregory, sorry for reporting in so late. It may have taken 18 years, but we're finally in the position to prove Samson's innocence. All thanks to your boy Miles. Couldn't have done without him. I should have seen him. The way he fought for the truth gave me chills. It was like I was watching you. Look, I know I'm not half the attorney you were. But those guiding principles you tried to instill in me, I like to think I'm embodying them right now as I carry on your legacy. Here's hoping. Your boy will be joining me in that soon. Ah! Am I going to fight crime as a prosecutor or help people as an attorney? What is the right answer? Which path should I choose? Ooh, that was a marathon.
Yeah, we had some catching up to do.
Yeah, there was a lot of catching up, so...
So what's the next case?
The next case is going to be a Turnabout Forsaken. That'll be the next one. Until then, we rest.